Hi guys, and welcome back to another tutorial. Today I'll be teaching us how to draft a basic dress pattern, a basic dress block. And the measurements we'll be needing our waist, our shoulder to bust, shoulder to under bust, shoulder to waist, shoulder to hip, and shoulder to the length of the dress. Shoulder to bust, shoulder to under bust, shoulder to waist, shoulder to hip, and shoulder to the length of the dress. And for the round measurements, we'll be needing our bust measurement, our under bust measurement, our waist measurement, our hip measurement. Those are the basic round measurements we'll be needing. So let's go into the tutorial. I'll be drafting my straight measurement first. So my shoulder to my waist, my shoulder to bust is 10 inches. Shoulder to under bust is 14 inches. 14 inches. Shoulder to waist 16 inches. Shoulder to hip 24 inches. And shoulder to the length of my dress is 36 inches. And I'll be ruling that out. So I'll be labeling them. This is my bust, my under bust, this is my waist, my hip, and this is the length of the blouse. So the next thing I'll be getting is my neckline. I'll be using the basic neckline, or let me just use it 3.5 by 3.5 neckline. And I'll be getting my back measurement. My back measurement is 16. 16 divided by 2 is 8. I'll be getting my back measurement here. So on the point where I got my back measurement, I'll be coming down by 1 inch for shoulder slope, and I'll be connecting that slantly to my neckline this way. I'll get my neck. So that's my neckline. So the next thing I'll be doing is getting my armhole length, my armhole curve. And just like I said, armhole is bust divided by 6 plus 1.5. Bust divided by 6 plus 1.5. In this case, my bust is 38 divided by 6 plus 1.5 is 7.8, but I approximate it to 8 inches. So I'll be getting my 8 inches and I'll be ruling that out. So this is my armhole line. On this line, I'll be dividing my 8 inches armhole length by 2. That is 4 inches. So on the 4 inches, I'll go in by ½ inch. That is my armhole. This is where I'll get my armhole curve. So the next thing I'll be doing is taking my dart. To get the dart, I'll be using my nipple to nipple measurement. My nipple to nipple measurement is 8 inches divided by 2. That is 4 inches. I'll be ruling my so I've gone ahead to get my dart line, and I'll be getting my dart on the waist. On my waist, I'll be going ½ inch in and ½ inch out. Then I'll be connecting that for the front block. This is our front block. That for the front block, start 1 inch below the bust and 4 inches below the waist. So I'll be connecting this. The next thing I'll be getting down my measurements. And for my bust is 38 38 divided by 4 is 9.5, and I'll be adding 1 inch for sewing allowance. That makes it 10.5. I'll go to this I hope you can see this. Just like I said, for my my bust is 38 divided by 4, 9.5, plus 1 inch for seam allowance, 10.5. Then I'll be taking that same 10.5 measurement on my armpit here. Then I'll be going to my underbust. My underbust is 38. 38 divided by 4 is 8, plus 1 inch seam allowance is 9. For my waist is 30. 30 divided by 4 is 7.5. I'll add 1 inch for that. That is 8.5. Then 1 inch sewing allowance. That is 9.5. Then I'll be going to my hip. My hip is 40. My hip is 40. 40 divided by 4 is 10. 10 plus 1 is 11. Now for my blouse length, I'll be taking this measurement of my hip divided by 4, which is 10. I'll be taking 1.5 inch away from 10. That is 8.5. So 8.5 is what I'll be measuring here. Then I'll be adding 1 inch seam allowance to this as well. So that will be 9.5. I just hope you can see this. So I'll be getting my armhole. I just want you to see how I'm connecting my armhole. So I've connected my armhole. This is my armhole. So the next thing I'll be doing is connecting my measurements. So I'll connect from my waist to my armpit. I'm trying to soften this place so it doesn't look very funny. Then I'll be connecting from here to my length using my ruler. So this is my front block. I'll be drafting my back block now. So this is my back block. For my back block, I'll be getting my zip allowance first. I'll be using 1 inch zip allowance for my back block on my basic dress. So this is my zip allowance of 1 inch. So every measurement I'll be taking will start from my zip allowance. Let me start by taking my neckline measurement. So for the back block, the basic, I'll be taking 3.5 width of my neckline, 3.5, and 1 inch depth. I hope you can see this clearly. 1 inch depth. So that's my neckline for the back block. I'll be taking my back measurement, which is 16. 16 divided by 2, that is 8. And I'll be taking my length measurement. My shoulder to my bust is 10 inches. Shoulder to my under bust is 14 inches. Shoulder to my waist is 16 inches. Shoulder to my hip is 24 inches, and then this is the length of my dress, 36 inches. I'll be ruling those out. So the next thing I'll be getting is my dart. My dart is nipple to nipple divided by 2. My nipple to nipple is 8 divided by 2 is 4 inches. So that for my back block starts 1 inch above the bust. This is my bust. This is my under bust. This is my waist, this is my hip, and this is the blouse length. So it starts 1 inch above the bust and stops 4 inches below the waist. So on my waist, I'll be taking my dart, which is 1/2 inch in and 1/2 inch out. If you can see that, and I'll be connecting. So let me get my shoulder slope 1 inch and connect to my neckline. Then from my slope, I'll be taking my length of my arm, which is 8 inches, like I calculated for the front, 8 inches, and I'll be drawing that out. So I'll be getting the midpoint, which is 4 inches. So for the back block, I'm not going to be going in by ½ inch like I did for the front. I'm just going to be connecting to my armpit. I'll be taking my measurement. My bust divided by 4 is 9.5 plus 1 inch seam allowance, that's 10.5. On my under bust, I'll be taking my under bust, which is 38 divided by 4 is 8 inches plus 1 inch seam allowance, that is 9 inches. For my waistline, I'll be removing my zip budge. I like to remove zip budge on my pattern paper. I'll be removing my zip budge. So I'll be going in by 0.75 inches from the start line. I'll be going in by 0.75 inches on the start line, and I'll be connecting just to remove that excess zip budge. So I'll be connecting straight down before it gets to the hip. I'll stop before the hip. Then I'll be connecting here. This helps remove any form of zip budge. You know, the back is not straight, so you don't expect the pattern to be straight. So I've removed my zip budge, which is 0.75. So I'll be adding the zip budge to the measurement on the waist. So my waist is 30 divided by 4 is 7.5. 7.5 plus 1 inch seam allowance is 8.5 plus 0.75 is 9.2. So I've been taking my 9.25 measurement here. My hip is 40 divided by 4 is 10 inches plus 1 inch seam allowance is 11 inches. Then on this point, I'll be taking my, just like I did for the front, hip divided by 4, which is 10 inches. I'll remove 1.5 inches, which is 8.5 inches, plus 1 inch seam allowance, that is 9.5 inches. This is how you get your back armhole. This is my back armhole. So this is how it is. I will soften. So this is my back block, and this is the front block. I just hope you can see this. So now that I'm done, I'll be cutting this out to show us. This is my front block after cutting it out. This is the shape. So guys, this is my back block. This is what it looks like after I've cut it out. I hope you saw how I cut out my zip budge. This is how it looks like. This is the base of the back block. So guys, this is the end of today's tutorial on how to draft a basic dress. Thank you for watching today's video. I'll see you in my next video. Kindly subscribe to my channel, like, comment, share, then turn on your post notifications so you get updated whenever I drop a new video. I'll see you in my next video. Bye guys.